Hey guys, and welcome back to the Politea with D. We're in my bedroom today, my new room. But anyway, if you're watching the video and you're like, whoa, bit of a rogue outfit choice there today, it's because it's Pride, London Pride, and we're going to the parade. I never go to the parade in Dublin. I don't think I've even, oh, I think I've been at the end of the parade when they go to Marion Square, but I've never actually gone and seen the parade. But the girls were like, let's go this time, and it's a democracy, so I said, you know what, hell yeah. But I'm excited to be with my community, with my people. Then we're gonna come back and then go out again at nighttime. It's a full day event. Pride is everything, guys. Pride is everything. We need pride, okay? So I'm excited. But yeah, I thought before I go out, let's film this episode, okay? Talk about bad time management, but you know what? I'll never change. It just is what it is. No, I will change one day, but not today. There's no need. Okay, so let's get into this episode. Quick update on the fuel excise cuts. They were supposed to end in July, end of end of July, but now they're being extended to September, and then after September, it's going to start like gradually being rolled back. So if you remember, there was an excise duty cut of 27 cent on petrol and 32 cent on diesel, okay, per liter. So that's being extended to September and then roll back. Let's talk about hair coursing, which I did not know was a thing. Honestly, there's all these random traditions out there that I don't know nothing about. But this one's very bizarre. Okay, so Paul Murphy, People Before Profit TD, brought forward this bill, Animal Health and Welfare Ban on Hair Coursing Bill 2020. So it was brought forward in 2020. Now it's on the second stage debate. This happened this year. And then now they're talking about it for some reason again. I don't even know how this got brought up again, but they're gonna vote on it next Wednesday, okay? The government's already voting no. But what is hair coursing, guys? This is like a blood sport. Roots in England. This is the exact same thing as fox hunting, where every time people try to justify it, they're like, "Well, it's our tradition." It's not our tradition. It's literally not our tradition. We inherited this from the British, so I don't understand this. And also, people actually, and everybody always tries to blame rural Ireland. They're always like, "Well, they like it over there." They don't even. When you look at the stats for fox hunting and for hair coursing, both rural Ireland are in favor of banning it. Like that's what the stats say. But anyway, so what is hair coursing? Honestly, this is so bizarre. So this is like tradition, whatever. Before the regulations came in, hair coursing was like you get the hairs months before, you like, capture them, train them or whatever, and then you let them off into the wild, and then you have like dogs like sight hounds and like greyhounds start chasing them through the woods and the forest and stuff like this like it's not you don't even it's not like a you know oh it's for the environment or whatever, like it's literally for the fun of the people watching this. Like it's so bizarre. And before the restrictions came in, the dogs would catch these hares and then tear them apart. Now with the restrictions, the dogs have to have muzzles on them. So apparently they say now only 1% are killed. But what's the point of this? Genuinely. You get these dogs, you weirdos who are obsessed with this tradition, then go watch the dogs chase these hares all across the woods until they're probably, oh my god, I'm actually emotional. They're probably so scared, exhausted from running from these fucking dogs. Just so what? These old people can just watch and smile and be like, ha 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 ha. Apparently, it's like tied to gambling. They said one of the government's justifications, dead ass, for allowing this or for even voting this bill down is that it's a $70 million euro industry. I'll be real with you. Obviously, $70 million. Oh my god, why am I into dollars? I don't even use dollars anywhere. Obviously, 70 million euro is a lot of money, but in the context of like for the economy, I would argue it's not worth the animal abuse. It's like that's just me. Like, do we need to be doing that? I don't know. Like the government keeps saying it's tradition, but like it's like, and they said the social contribution to rural Ireland. I think they have other contributions. I'll be real, okay? And a recent Red Sea poll revealed that in rural Ireland, 78% are in favor of banning it. And it's even the urban areas that are lower, 76 in urban areas. So I don't know. And one of the arguments that's going on right now is that people think it should be a free vote so that the government ministers can vote with their heart and not be party whipped into voting whatever way the government wants them to vote. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be party whipped, but everybody's saying it should be a free vote. This is weird. This is weird. Even for the government, this is weird, I think. Let's talk about Aughinish, okay? This one is all new to me now, but it's interesting nonetheless. Actually, it's really interesting and it's really relevant, especially with the EU presidency. We'll be talking about that also, but especially with the EU presidency, this is coming up a bit. So, what is Aughinish? First of all, it's a place in Limerick, but it's also um a plant, like an alumina plant. Okay, so alumina is used to make aluminum, right? And then it's exported to parts around Europe. But what is the problem? It's owned by one of these Russian metal like giants, Russell, okay? And who's Russell? This is a company built by Oleg Deripaska. Okay. And who is he? Guys, there's layers to this. And who is he? He's a Russian oligarch who's been tied, like one of the biggest oligarchs tied to Vladimir Putin's regime. He's been personally sanctioned by the EU, the US, and the UK. Okay? So what's the problem with alumina and the fact that it becomes aluminum? And the fact that it's being exported to Russia. Once it's smelted, this aluminum is used to make weapons. So if it's being exported to Russia and they're using those weapons to what? Attack Ukraine and carry out this war. So everybody's a little bit confused, rightfully so, as to why an EU country is allowing this to happen for them to literally produce the material used for weapons that are used to fight a war that they're paying to fight against. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't make sense, does it? You know? So that's one of the many. Obviously, there's a layers to this, and we'll get into that, okay? So, in March, the Irish Times and the Organised Crime and Corruption Reporting Project published an investigation examining Onish's alleged role in supporting Russia's military industry. And then it found that this Limerick plant has been exporting large quantities of alumina to Russia. And then also, recent CSO figures appear to show that 200,619 tons, or 83%, of Onish's total exports were shipped to Russia during the first quarter of 2026. 83%. That's huge. However, this is where it gets messy. Peter Burke, who's the Minister for Enterprise, says that's not true. He said that's not true, guys. I don't know where you get them numbers. I don't know where the CSO got those numbers, but it's not true, okay? So he went on to Morning Ireland, this was ages ago, and said that only 45% of Onish's exports went to Russia. I would argue 45% is even too high still. But anyway, during that period, and then a further 45% were exported to EU member states. What about the other 10%? Did we keep that? I don't know. So that's the problem. That's the massive conversation is, does it make sense that there's, and also like this plant hasn't been sanctioned by the EU yet. So it's like that's why it's still able to go on. So I think that's going to be a massive conversation during the EU presidency, and they've already brought it up. Also, guess who else brought it up? Zelensky. He was at the opening ceremony for the EU presidency, and he said, "You guys can't be wasting too much time," because once this investigation by the Irish Times came out, they then said, the government said, okay, we hear you. We're not too sure about these numbers. We're going to do our own investigation. So they're doing their own investigation. Hopefully, a report is going to come out soon to say what are the actual figures, how much is actually going there, like how much is it actually contributing to Russia's war effort, like what's the story there, okay? So then there's been talks about the fact that the government should buy the plant and nationalize it, so that, it's not being owned by this oligarch, and then hopefully we're not selling to Russia anymore, all of that stuff, okay? And then Michal Martin, when he was asked about it, said, and I quote, "That's not on the agenda right now, but we will engage with the Commission, assess the plant's importance to the wider European situation." And then he said, "We don't want the material going into Russia, and we're also mindful of all of those working there, because it can't be easy for them to be reading about all of this, which obviously impacts on their individual livelihoods. We have to weigh up a lot of issues around this, because obviously thousands of people work at this plant, or like it's not even just the plant, it's the like jobs that surround the plant, like all of this is connected, like it fuels this town basically. So obviously he's not he doesn't want to just shut it down, but people aren't saying to shut it down though, they're saying to buy it. But do we have that money? Question. Will the EU help us? I don't know what the tea is, but they said it's on the agenda, okay? And then I think even Ursula von der Leyen, not a fan of her honestly, but she also said that it's going to be on the agenda. So we'll try track what's going on, But yeah, it's a bit confusing, the idea that like we are producing materials that are being used to fight against the war that we're against. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense in my head, and I hope it makes sense to you guys. But yeah, I was reading about this and I said, huh, I didn't know about all this. I guess I'm not as in touch with what's going on in the world as I thought. So let's talk about the EU presidency because that's kind of been what everyone's talking about for a while. You know, people were talking about how expensive it is. Apparently, it's going to cost us 165 million. I don't know if that's a lot of money. I assume it. Obviously, it is. Honest, like sometimes when we're talking about money on here, I start to lose like what's actually a lot, what's a little, like you know. But everybody was raging because they're like, that could go to the homelessness crisis here, all of that stuff. I mean, we have to spend money on this. Like, we're in the EU. It's just something that has to happen low key. Does it need to be 165 million? I guess because of there were so many different things that were coming into play. Because it was like there was loads of people saying like, you know, are we gonna allow other people's militaries to be like landing here on our ports and stuff like that, like with all their weapons and shit? Like, what are we allowing? And then the amount of guards that are gonna the guardian situation, I think is a bit ridiculous because we're constantly saying we need more guards, we need more guards, we need more guards, we need more guards. Like we need like a presence. Like we need to be able to like always not be always seeing them, but like when you're in town, you want at least to see a few guards out and about walking around, so you feel somewhat safe. Okay, how does it make sense now though that we're sending all of these guards to the EU presidency, reducing our force for the general public? You know, like I understand though to a certain extent because we're having all of these EU leaders, but what is the real threat level here? Hmm? Like, am I being silly? Am I being silly? Because sometimes, I don't know. When I think about defense and security, I'm very like, you guys are hyping this shit up. That's my mindset. I feel like sometimes people make these things seem bigger than they are because it's like, you know, $1 billion industry. So it's like, obviously, you're going to say you're constantly under threat because you need, so then people are funding all of your weapons and whatever, and you're getting money and it's going to these companies, and then those companies are going into your back pockets because they're lobbying you for all of these things and they're funding your campaigns. It's an endless cycle. So obviously, I'm going a bit out there now, but I do think when it comes to security and defense, sometimes I don't believe a lot of these things that they're saying to us because I'm like, you're just seeing money signs, you're just seeing euros in your face. So I don't know. But anyway, do we need that many guards? How many guards is even going? Let me have a look. I can't find an official number. They're being really secretive about this, I'll be real. But it does say more than 270 events will be taking place across the country throughout the 6 month period. This is on the Garda website. 6 month period as part of the programme of the Irish presidency. On Garda Síochána will implement traffic management plans and appropriate policing and security measures to facilitate these events. That's not a number. That's not a number. But they've been given 125 million to fund this. What? Okay. They've been given 78 new transport cars and 75 escort motorcycles and two water cannons. Okay. So the money's there for some things, but not for others. Makes you wonder. Anyway, that's that. Oh wait, I haven't actually spoken about this EU presidency at all. I've just been shading defense as always. As always, you guys know like when it comes to military defense, any of that stuff. I'm like, why are we spending money on this? Let's just love each other. Okay, so how did it start? We had the opening ceremony. Zelensky was there, had a speech where he said, you know, Ireland, you've always been on the right side of history. I know that you guys are neutral and you love your neutrality, but you guys have always known right from wrong, blah blah blah. He loves to say that, okay? So Antonio Costa was there, president of the council, and he had his little speech. He said he focused on the three pillars. So what are the three pillars of this Irish presidency, right? Vague, and vaguer, okay? Values, competitiveness, and you guessed it, security, okay? Then he was met with applause after saying that, okay? People were gagging. He said Ireland has consistently been at the forefront of the effort to uphold the principles at the core of international rules based order. They basically said, use our little bitch dogs that always listen to us and never question anything we do. Thank you so much for that. How embarrassing, but I know they ate that up. International rules based order that only some people follow and other people do not. Shout out to Israel, who's never followed any of these rules, apparently, that we have, or international law that we apparently have. Anyway, any chance to bait out Israel, I'll go there. Then he said, this international rules based order must guide our work for peace and security in Gaza. Huh? You've done fuck all about that, first of all, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, and the Strait of Hormuz, and across the wider Middle East, and of course they must also remain at the heart of the effort to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. Do you see how this might confuse people though when you say stuff like that and you do nothing to deal with Israel? Sanctions, you don't want to support us in our occupied territories bill. You don't want to bring in anything similar, or you've been working on something similar according to Helen McEntee, but you haven't put it forward actually. And whatever version you want to do is weak as fuck. Also doesn't include services the same way our occupied territories bill doesn't include services. Like, why are you talking about peace in Gaza? Why are you even talking about peace in the Middle East when you've done fuck all to support that? Mind you, you've actually caused these issues if you want to go back in time. Anyway, it's just the concept of the people that broke the system saying we should fix it. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. I mean, they kind of have to. It's their job to fix what they broke, but they're not doing a good job at it. Anyway, guys, sorry, I'm rambling. I just, like, sometimes I think about the EU. You guys know how I feel. I mean, to be fair, I hate the UN more than I hate the EU. But, hey, actually, I hate them all equally. They just don't do their jobs. And it's so sad because it's like, when you go into politics, you're just told, like, these are your options, the EU and the UN. And then the whole time you're learning, though, that these two companies don't do it. Companies are these two corporations. I mean, they are kind of corporations in a way that they don't do anything. They literally don't do anything. You get a job there and you're just pushing paper. You're just sending emails, and it's like, what's happening? People are still starving. People are still dying while you're on Word making documents talking about the fact that people are still starving and dying. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, sorry guys. I got carried away there. He also addressed the Irish housing crisis, okay? And he said that the issue will be the key focus of the Irish presidency, adding, we must tackle this multi layered crisis together, and your leadership will be crucial to making process. The leadership that caused this. Okay. So what do some other parties want from this EU presidency? Labour said that they wanted to improve food security and help Irish farmers. Social Democrats said, what the hell even is, values competitiveness and security? It's very like, these are such basic things, like whatever, I don't know. And she said, I think it was Holly Kern said, this is the same thing that you guys say for every not Irish presidency, but every EU presidency, like whoever's holding it. Those are pretty similar to the values that they say every single time, or the goals. Social Democrats said that they want sanctions against Israel for its genocide in Gaza and ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. Discussions on security must include energy, climate, food, and cybersecurity, and then support for Ukraine by ensuring EU companies are not cogs in Putin's war machine. Word to Aughinish. Okay, I think this is a little callback. And then Sinn Féin, I think you can guess what they want. Preparing for Irish unity, which I mean, I'm also on there. Um, I'm also on that wave, preparing for Irish unity. And then they also said standing up for workers, families, farmers, and communities, standing up for peace, international law, and Ireland's military neutrality. So, word to the triple lock, they don't want that gone. Okay, then we have people before profit. Richard Boyd Bart says the government is using the presidency as a festival of propaganda. To promote the EU's militarization agenda and to justify ending Ireland's triple lock. Yup, yup, yup. The government should be using the presidency to promote the development of a just and equal people's Europe and to defend Ireland's tradition of neutrality. Word to the triple lock again. Okay? So that's the EU presidency. Like, it's going to be going on for 6 months, so I feel like we'll probably be talking about it quite a bit. And I feel like there's kind of like a feeling of like, okay, what's this got to do with me though? And I also feel that sometimes, but everything affects you because whatever things that they decide on here becomes, the basis of what we do here as well. Like, if they decide something for all of Europe, we have to follow through with that as well. So it is important to keep up to date with what they've decided is the go ahead. Okay. Last somehow a very short episode. I didn't realize this when I was doing my typing up. I think because the EU presidency took up so much of this week. So anyway, have you seen this, guys? I would show you the video, but there's really no point. I don't think you need to see this. A Dublin County councillor or a Dublin councillor showed up to the election of the new Lord Mayor, Barron, topless. Okay? It was on Zoom, so it's not like he showed up to an actual event in person. But he was on Zoom in his bed, topless. Okay, but everyone's jumping him, and I also jumped him because I don't really like this guy. I'll get into why. But when I used to work from home, guys, bro, I'd be asleep in my bed, just tapping that mouse to make it seem like I was active on Teams, even if I wasn't, because I couldn't give a heck. I actually couldn't give a heck. So I do get it in that aspect. But my job was like I was bottom of the food chain. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't really influencing anything. You're in a meeting that's literally being recorded because we're dealing with the election of a new Lord Mayor. You know what I mean? Like, really, you couldn't have put on a top. Honestly, I don't know if he didn't realize he had like his camera was on or what, but anyway. So this guy, he's an independent councillor, Philip Sutcliffe. Okay, and yeah, he's from Ballyfermot. He's a Ballyfermot Drimna councillor, and that's actually crazy. Oh, and but like the public couldn't see him. Oh, that's important to note. The public couldn't see him, but the counselors who joined virtually, they could see him. Okay, and one counselor said, "It is just particularly ridiculous to show up at the council without, as far as I could tell, any clothes on. But I assumed he was just topless." Lol. So why don't I like this guy though? You may wonder. During his election in 2024, he shared an image on social media of a spoiled ballot. What was on this ballot, you may wonder? There was some words like deport all Africans, deport all Indians, and ban same-sex adoption. Honestly. Really? And then he said that he accidentally shared it. He was like, my bad, honestly. And then he said the post had been forwarded to me, and I was also tagged in it, and it was accidentally shared on my account. I wasn't aware it had gone up on my social media account. That it was an honest mistake, and he would make sure it doesn't happen again. Then later on in the year, or in May this year, he shared an anti-Semitic video on WhatsApp calling for a real final solution and labeling Jewish people satanic. And on that one, he said he didn't remember posting it. It was probably something he just shared. He said probably just shared something on. What? This is worrying though, okay? Because either you don't watch all the videos that you see and you just share blindly, worrying for a counselor to be doing shit like that. I would hope that a counselor has reading capabilities and comprehension abilities, okay? Seems like he doesn't. Or he's just a flat out racist. I'm gonna hit you guys with probably both, okay? He also was a former Olympic boxer and he coached Conor McGregor in the past. So he didn't vote for either Daryl Barron or the Social Democrats councillor Jesselyn Henry. He abstained or whatever. So whatever, weird guy. But that's just I just saw that video on TikTok and I was like, you know what, honestly, it's always something. It actually is always something. That's what we have for today. Really short episode. I don't mean to for them to be. I must be missing stuff. I don't know how my episodes before used to be like an hour. I just was yapping. I think I would go off the rails a little too much, and now I feel like I'm doing better at just being like boom, 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 boom. Okay, but honestly, if you ever listen to an episode and be like, I thought this happened this week and I didn't talk about it, just comment, just vote, no, just comment, or on my TikTok or on the Spotify thing. I'm getting the hang of it now. I can see comments. I couldn't before because I didn't know what I was doing, but I can now. So yeah, comment and or DM me on like TikTok or whatever, and I'll hopefully see that also. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I have for this week. But happy Pride, happy London Pride, and then also you guys had Pride last week. You know, my friends went to Pride last week without me. I mean, they had to. I wasn't there, but they went out without me, and we just FaceTime for like an hour, and I was just like at Pride. I was like, hey, you know. So I'm doing Pride twice. So yeah, but shout out to my people in the community, my queer folk. I love you guys. We out here. We surviving. We thriving. Okay. We're here and we're queer. Okay. Good night. Oh, it's not good night. Goodbye.